what was the situation of the development team before we worked together, and what did you see? How was the atmosphere overall and the productivity of the team? And what were the biggest problems, if any, that you saw?
All right. So before we were, what were we using?
Basecamp.
Yes. Okay. So we were using Basecamp. It was quite unorganized within Basecamp. Usually, development-wise, at least what I saw from the outside, was primarily focused on responding to bugs. There were a lot of bugs and a lot of issues, so that those were constantly being responded to. So I never really saw anything like like the backlog and stuff. Like I didn't see something like that because that was in a process until you came in and implemented that. So yeah, definitely implementing scrums, those daily meetings with the developers.
Yeah.
That was really important to bring them in and to make sure that they're really part of the team. Um, and implementing those meetings across different departments.
Mm-hmm.
That was really great because a lot of us were working remotely. Sometimes it can be, feel like you're a little isolated because you're not corresponding with your coworkers.
Yeah.
So it was really great to bring in those meetings. That was something great that you did. I think they were primarily Zoom meetings. There's also the Gmail or
Yeah, the
Google
Hangout ones.
meetings. Yeah, the Hangouts. And also Slack. That was a really great tool that you brought in. Slack has been really useful for us to correspond, share documents. It really brought us closer together. So that was a really cool
You guys
tool.
still using it, right?
We're still using it. Yes. I mean, Slack sometimes, Slack right now has a bug and it's showing that I've been on a call since Thursday. but but overall, it's been a great tool to get in contact with people and share documents. And then there was also, what else was there? Jura. So that was really great.
Oh yeah.
Before, I'm not sure how the development was organized. I just know that it was in Basecamp. But yeah,
Yeah, it was list of tasks basically.
yes,
You
it
had a
was.
date assigned and kind of that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a list of tasks, but the Scrum process and seeing the boards and what everyone is working on, and then getting those reports on those tickets, that made a big difference. So I don't
What
know if I
about,
answered your question.
yeah, and did you see any change in the amount of features or in the quality of the product?
Yes, and that was also visible because during our Monday meetings, you were always reporting
Oh, the
everything that
leadership
was
meetings,
completed.
right? Oh, no, no, no. This is the all hands meeting. Yeah.
The all hands meeting on Mondays.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you had a really great report and you would list out all of the different tickets that were completed. Um, and that was really great to see how development was progressing. Um, Before it was, yeah, there was just not a lot of communication, and the rest of the company didn't understand what was completed, what had been released. So that was
What
really
to
great to see.
expect and when. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and another thing that was really great was that you went out to all the different departments and asked them what their pain points were and what kind of things they wanted to see developed. So that was something that we were missing because before it was a task and it was really just the leadership that would add different products that they thought were useful, but it wasn't going out to the entire company
Yeah.
and to say, like, okay, so there are problems, with accounting, like how can we improve the accounting software for them. So that was really important. And
Yeah, I remember that.
yeah, and what else? Oh, I like that you added the video conferencing because that was something that we weren't doing. We weren't seeing each other's faces. We would call each other,
And for
whether it
many
was
years, right? Like
for many
Curel was
years.
there for, I don't know, 13 years.
Yeah, definitely. So that was new, and that was really great to get to know people a little better by seeing people's faces and their facial expressions. I think it brought us closer together.
What about the productizing and helping with? Did you see any improvements in the way that, as a team, we started prioritizing? And I know that you got a lot involved into describing tickets in detail, like functionalities, exactly how they were working, because you were interfacing with customers a lot. And we started having those backlog grooming and sprint plannings. And in there, and for those, you had an important role of providing a lot of input.
Yeah, definitely. So primarily, it was for me, it was with carriers. So I was getting integrations and I was getting pricing, and I wanted to just make sure that the pricing was implemented and that all the rules, accessorials, anything extra was implemented in the right way. So I would get out that information, and using Jira, it was very easy to create stories. Um, and add all of the criteria that we needed within that one story. And then also being able to comment back and forth directly with the developers inside of that ticket, and then seeing as it progresses. And then also the UAT process. That was something that we didn't have before.
Yeah, the user acceptance testing. Yeah.
So I really liked that, before it was going to be released, I would test it to make sure that it was working as I expected it to work. So that was a really great process that you brought in as well. That was a great process.
How is it for you to take over the development in itself and apply all these processes that we've brought into the company? Was it difficult for you?
So it was difficult when I started, because when I went through the backlog, I noticed that most of the stories, they weren't really well described. Like they would say like, okay, I want this or I want that, but it wouldn't, like, there were no details. So as a developer, I understood why these stories weren't being completed.
Yeah.
And why we had such a huge backlog of them, because they're kind of just like an idea that's just thrown out, but doesn't have any kind of specifications, no acceptance criteria, like nothing like that. So that was one of the things that was challenging for me, was to I went to the Scrum Alliance and yeah, and just like read about what it means to create stories that make sense for developers and that also capture everything that people expect them to program.
That's why it's very important to separate, and people keep on putting together ideas and features or stories that they really wanna build, and they dump all of them into the backlog. But the purpose of backlog is not that. The purpose of backlog are things that you do think in that moment that you need to develop, not things that you want to see if you should develop, but things that you do want to develop. It's been agreed that you should develop, and it's in there for the purpose of getting, clarified and prioritized. But if it's something that it's really vague, it should not even be in the backlog in itself. And yeah, Jira and other tools allow you with all kinds of features to create even a separate board, so that in that main board with your main project backlog, they don't even show up. How did you feel about the way that we work together with all the other departments and with the leadership team together, putting together, the Trello board, where when we met with the whole leadership team in there will be all the priorities for the leaders of the departments, and you were definitely on it as well. How did you feel that transparency?
One of the things that I really liked was that whenever you were taking notes, you were sharing your screen, and you were taking down all of the feedback across the company when we were in the leadership meeting. And that was really great, because you would see that, whatever anyone was saying was being directly written down, and you're making tasks and you were prioritizing all of those things as it was happening. And you were sharing that. So it was very transparent. That was a really great process.
Yeah. Did you guys continue to do that?
Yeah, actually, I do that now. So I use Confluence. I love Confluence.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's connected to Jira, and it's been really great for organizing all of the different departments, all of the different notes within the departments, different projects that we were working on. Like, for example, when we were working on the memberships and we had to work very closely with marketing, it was really great to have all the specifications in one place, and then to associate it with Jira.
Remember when we started with switching everybody from the customer success to Zendesk, because they didn't use any ticketing form. They did use that similar to Slack tool, like Ring or something like that, but it wasn't actually tickets where the customers would have access to receive emails themselves. And and not just that we added those tickets in, but we started creating those reports, automatic reports and goals, metrics. It should not be, a ticket should not go over more than 48 hours without being answered, or 24 hours without being answered, 48 hours without being. So that brought a little bit of a, I just want to ask you whether you think that that was more of a pressure on it, or it's something that it is good because when you have those kind of metrics and goals, hey, we want to get to this response time. Do you think that was something that was too stretchy, or it's something that you see as good part of a company in itself when you have those kind of goals like that?
No,
And
that was really
visibility to
great. And
report.
Zendesk is not a tool that I use a lot because I'm not always talking with customers and creating tickets. But for the rest of the team, for the customer facing team, for customer service and for logistics, it has been like a game changer. Like it's definitely been a really, really great tool that you implemented. And it was really nice to see how those reports were drawn out from
Exactly.
Zendesk itself, definitely. So seeing how many tickets were resolved, how many tickets under 24 hours, all those other rules that you
Yeah.
added. Yeah, that was really useful. It was very useful to see how people were progressing towards their goals. Zendesk, yeah, I mean, I think that was an excellent tool, and it still is, and we're still using it.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a
My
lot, Aleksandra.
pleasure.
And
Thank you.
I congratulate you because you're doing such an amazing job with the development team over there.